Hello friends, my name is Keisha, and I'm a proud member of the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan. I'm also a survivor of human trafficking. My trafficking began in Canada and crossed into the United States. I was stalked, hunted, and ignored by the very systems that were meant to protect me. This is why, with my father, Dale Richardson, we started the CARES Project, an Indigenous survivor-led movement for humanity. We are dedicated to exposing human trafficking, government corruption, and holding institutions accountable. The judicial branch is broken. It has failed to restrain the evils that have come upon this republic. Whether it's family court failures, weaponization of the judiciary, COVID-era harms, or human trafficking, the courts have allowed these issues to continue unchecked for too long. One of the most powerful tools we're using is the petition for redress of grievances. These are lawful constitutional actions rooted in the founding principles of this country. On May 19, 2026, a formal petition for redress of grievances was submitted to the United States Congress. This petition is demanding that Congress and the President use the powers under Article 4, Section 4 to preserve this Republican form of government by restraining these abuses pending congressional investigation. Through the CARES Project Action Plan, we are mobilizing people across the United States to strengthen this effort. This petition has been created as a template. If you or someone you love have been hurt by these same systemic failures in the courts or by government institutions, your evidence matters. When you come forward, please bring your evidence along with a copy of the petition for redress of grievances. This helps connect your story to this growing constitutional record being placed before Congress. We are asking you to stand with us. Join the CARES Project Action Plan and help us build a precedent that demands accountability and protects the God-given rights of American families. Our united voices will compel Congress to uphold the Constitution and safeguard our liberties. United we stand, one nation under God. I will close with my favorite quote. The greatest want of the world is the want of men. Men who will not be bought or sold. Men who in their inmost souls are true and honest. Men who do not fear to call sin by its right name. Men whose conscience is as true to duty as the needle to the pole. Men who will stand for the right, though the heavens may fall. Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the CARES Project podcast. Today, we have with us a guest who's going by the name Alaska Peppermint, and he's coming to talk about some of the issues of being a victim of a survivor of trafficking, and a lot about what's going on in the state of Alaska, where the trafficking and the corruption is out of control. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You want to introduce yourself to our audience?
Well, I go by Alaska Peppermint because I'm not quite ready to come all the way out yet, although I am working on a documentary and a book, and I will be disclosing my identity at that time. But because of the corruption in Alaska, and well, not just here, all over the United States, the information that needs to be disclosed, I can't just come out and put myself an even bigger target on myself. But the corruption in this state has not gotten any better. It's only gotten worse. I am the daughter of an adult film star, and I was raised in the adult industry and trafficked through that adult industry all over the United States and in some cases out of the country. And when I finally got free, I ran away in Anchorage, Alaska. The place that I ran away from is it's still there. It's a car lot now, but I ran away from an international child trafficking ring that they did do some bust in Columbia, Missouri, but nobody has been held accountable for what's happened to me. And it's an international child trafficking ring, to be clear. Um, they're still in operation today, and it's because of people in positions of power that are helping to conceal and perpetuate the cycle of abuse and trafficking of young children in government. And it's crazy. I hate to say it, but that is also why I use a pen name.
So let's kind of go back a little bit here. You said that you were trafficked as a child and so forth. How old were you when this started to happen?
Well, I'm what they call born in, and born to. So I don't like calling her my mother, but for your audience and so everyone can understand, I'm going to call her my mother, and then we will call her my first handler, because that's what she is. She was never a mother. She didn't have me because she loved me. She had me because of what she could get from me. Um, so I can remember back as far as 3. Some people will think that's strange, but the reason I can remember that far back is because that's when one of the first times I can remember being assaulted, and it was actually mm, by my great uncle, and it was at the hands of my grandfather. He and my grandfather and my grandmother had dropped me off. It wasn't a secret. It was something they did every year, and I just so happened to be the party favor that year.
I
But
just
from the Go
sorry,
ahead.
I just wanted people to make a connection here. When it comes to trafficking of children and their own children, the mother is far more likely to traffic her own children than the father.
That's right. And a lot of people have this huge misconception that, well, a mother would never do that. But in most cases, some of the most severe and most egregious trafficking is done by the child's biological mother, because the mother has access. And just because you can have a child doesn't mean that you should, or just because you can produce doesn't make you, a good mom. And in my case, especially because she didn't just do this to me, she did this to my 2 brothers too. So she had several children. She had 3, and all 3 of us she used as, you know, party favors, literally.
So she offered you up to people and your brothers.
Yes, on a regular basis. She is what I call it a freak show, but she was called a feature entertainer, and she danced with snakes and all kinds of it was a huge production. And so she would do this thing, and it was called a lottery. They called it a lottery, and you could buy a ticket. And the ticket would, back in the day, when it was like in the 80s, so it was still a lot of money. Like back then it was like a lot of money. I thought it's a lot of money to me now, but anywhere from $1,800 to $2,000 is what I've learned through my research. And what she would do is she would have people buy lottery tickets, and then she would plan her circuit, where she was going to go and do her shows around how many people had bought lottery tickets. And she'd tell them, "Well, surprise, you won the lottery." And what that meant was she would come make a porn video with you, a pornographic video with you, and it was yours. It was your own private video. But the catch was is she would do anything. Her nickname was the Duchess of Down and Dirty, because she would quite literally do anything. So she'd give you access to children, her children. And a lot of people didn't even know that she had kids, but everywhere she went, we went too. And so if somebody wanted to do something heinous with me or one of my brothers, they had access to us through my handler, which is my biological mother. And it's hard for people to understand, but women can be predators, and in most cases are the most successful because they're the ones that society looks at like, oh, it's a woman, it's the mother. Of course, it wouldn't be the mother. And I always tell people, you have to think about it this way. A mother has access from the time that before the kid's even born. So if there's something demented and twisted with the mom, you know, you left your baby who's nonverbal and is just learning, and then they're being groomed by their first handler. So it's a touchy subject for me, but I'm here to explain. So I'm sorry if I went on a tangent.
Well, like they sit down and say, if you have daddy issues, a girl might become promiscuous or a guy might become a little bit be angry. But if you have mommy issues, you get serial killer.
Yeah, I've had to deal with a lot of. It's really hard, though. There are days I have severe trust issues. Like I have severe trust issues. Um, I don't have suicidal thoughts. I have homicidal thoughts. I have this thing, it's called a make the world a better place list in case I get terminally ill. But it's hard because when I got old enough to speak out, the first few times I speaked out and went to law enforcement, they were in on it, or they just outright didn't believe me and labeled me as, a problem child because what mother would do that, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, they a lot of people like to have this type of thing, and people have to understand this. For the amount of people that are involved, like getting victimized and abused, you have to have a massive network. People have to understand this. They have to fundamentally understand. To get away with doing this kind of things, you need to have a large scale operation inside of the government, because raping children, this is like worst crime. Raping and killing children, you're the bottom of the barrel. Like complete bottom of the barrel. And so
Yes.
how do you get away with doing this for so long? Right?
Well, how my handler got away with it is she started her adult career very late in life. It wasn't like her first job or anything. She went to school. She's really super smart, unfortunately. uh, but she went to school and she was a nurse first. She was an RN. And so she got access to, drugs. And back in the day, the hospitals weren't ran like they are today. So if you're a nurse, you can get your hands on pretty much, if you're an RN, you can get your hands on anything back in the day. You know what I mean? So she would dope me up, and sometimes she'd use the hospital floor that she was working on because she'd run the whole floor. She was an RN, and we'd be in like small towns, in like Wyoming or Missouri, or in small towns, or she'd work in a old folks home or whatever. But she always had access to drugs, and then she had access to children. So she started doing this before she even became a porn star. But she was also connected to, when you say how do they get away with it, there's this thing, and I'm sure there's other groups, but it's called the Temple of Set. And a lot of people are nervous to come out against them, but I don't care. To me, it's blatantly obvious. And there's other people that have come forward too. And the government still like shushes it and shuts it down. But the guy that ran it is a man named Michael Aquino, and he
Yes.
was enlisted. Yeah. And he specialized in what? Psychological warfare. Well, so she was connected as one of the 500 members, and they all cover for each other. Like this whole thing about people thinking that these hunting parties and ritualistic abuse, that's all like secretive. the insurance is they all know each other. Everyone knows who everyone is. So when somebody decides they don't want to do it anymore, that like this is gross, this is horrible, I might have been drunk last year, I don't know what I was thinking. It doesn't matter. Once they've got you, you're in. And if you don't comply, then you have to deal with the cabal. And they can make it look like an accident, an illness, or sometimes they'll, take out a family member, or, a family member will have an accident, or, all kinds of things. And they make it look like it's not them, but it is. And it's very organized. And they're more organized than our government, for sure. And in most cases, some of them are in government.
Yeah, that's the problem. You've got a lot of people in government, and that's the issue. And I mean, this is this is terrible. Like, I mean, I can't imagine. I have two daughters, and well, obviously my youngest daughter I haven't been able to see, but from when she was little, I was always looking out, trying to sit down and see how can I protect her and help her to be the best. And with my oldest daughter, I did the same thing, right? And so the thought of abusing a child, and then my own child, even worse, this doesn't enter my mind. I hear it and I see it happening, but I don't understand how someone can do this to their child. I don't get it. It makes no sense to me. I can't rationalize it. It's disgusting.
It's pure evil, and I don't think a lot of these people are even human. I honestly don't. I think maybe at one point in time they might have been human, but anybody that can abuse a child and walk away, especially when it's your own child, like what my handler did to me. I mean, I'm her only daughter, her firstborn daughter, but she didn't care. She never loved me. She loved what she could get from me. And she made sure to get everything that she could, you know. But the only way they can do it is by just being either they're completely possessed by some dark, you know, attachment, or they're just plain evil, or maybe they're not human. I don't know. But the things that I've survived, I've seen, police officers. I've literally had police officers give me back, and tell me things like, you might want to be careful who you talk to next time because you might not get to go home. Okay? Yeah, that's like the first time I ran away.
Wow. So they
And
told
then,
you that you might not
mhm,
get to go home if you actually go ahead and do something. If you go ahead and tell somebody.
that's right. I ran away, and I went to go stay with a friend. And at the time, I only went to public school like 3 times in my life. Other than that, uh, I wasn't educated at all. Um, but I went with a friend after school in Missouri. People can look this up. There's a school called Parkade Elementary. And so I left with a friend because my handler and this brothel was right down the street from Parkade. From an elementary school, there was a full-on brothel where you could, do unspeakable acts and get access to women, children, whatever. And anyhow, I got away, and then the my friend's mom was a nurse, and she said, well, she can stay with me. And the lady, I'm sure she tried to help, and I think she thought, well, it's been reported to the authorities. But what happened is I went to school, got pulled out of class, and an officer came to get me. And he told me when we were walking out, you better be careful who you talk to, because next time you might not get the chance to go home. And he returned me to my handler even after everything happened. And then I never went back to that school. And then I didn't go to school for a long time after that. I've only
That's
been to school 3 times. But there's documentation of it. So then when I came forward at 13, you know, there was documentation. They could have gone back and, found out what was going on, but they never did. And I believe it's because of the people she's connected to.
and so your mother is she was in she was in porn, but I know I know people who are actually in that now, and I know people who were in it previously, and nobody, none of them, they don't tolerate pedophilia. So
Yeah.
even the ones that are in it, they have to hide it because their pedophilia is so unnatural.
Mm-hmm.
You can't even survive in prison because they're like, look, buddy, we might have killed people, but that raping kids, that's a next level of dementia, dementedness that you can't get any worse. So there's obviously a set of people that are living double lives, just like they would anywhere, right? And I'm not sitting down and saying that I'm endorsing pornography. It's not the issue. The issue is that no matter where you go in life, most people don't like pedophiles and don't
That's right.
tolerate
And
pedophiles.
there are a lot of people in the adult industry that would never hurt a kid, and there are people that do spicy work and stuff like that that keep it completely separate from their families. But then there are those people that abuse that platform and use it to do the most heinous, unspeakable things. For instance, my handler did over 240 films legally. I'm putting in air quotes. Now, you can imagine that each time she did one of those films legally, that they were doing illegal films like snuff. And what they would do is they would use their their little porn site where they would make the video. Then when they were done with the adult actors and people that didn't actually know what was going on, or the people that weren't down with it, I'm sure they left, but then they would do other unspeakable acts and then film it. And to this day, I can't even tell you how many I can't even tell you how many times I've been filmed as a child and nothing has happened. But I can tell you she did 240 films legally.
I uh, I just I I'm sorry. This is I can't stand like I can't stand this. Like as far as I'm concerned, you rape a kid, you get the death penalty. That's I'm fine with that. I'm perfectly fine with that because just hearing about this, it I just it 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 just gets in a disgust that nothing else will, and it gets an anger that nothing else will. Because how does this even enter into your mind? Like if I looked at a child and was thinking, well, I need to do, I would just off myself. I would just off myself right then and there because I would rather be dead. I would rather be dead. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't get this. I don't get it, and nor should I get it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Because you're human. So you're not going to get it because you're human, because you have compassion, because you're a good person. But there's just, some people out there that they're addicts of the immediate, and they are just insatiable, and they can't they want that next high. They're just perverted, disgusting, and they're always looking for the next thing, the next thing. And sometimes, unfortunately, the next thing, and is a kid. And it's horrible because one of the things that drives me the most crazy is that people that come out, like for instance, uh, well, when I came out, nothing happened. They minimized my safety concerns. They quickly covered up as much as they could. And then for years after that, my brothers were brutally trafficked, brutally assaulted. And these were little boys, okay? And this went on and on and on until each one of my siblings found a way to get out of the house.
I so you have how many brothers and sisters? How many brothers? How many siblings?
Well, there's three of us. There's only two. I have two brothers and then there's me. But each one of us, I call it being a party favor. Uh, I don't know how else to explain it because it's like it'll be it'll be like a normal, like a get together, like a party. You know how people have like barbecues, or they hang out, and there's like a Christmas party or whatever, and then people get more intoxicated, the drugs start to come out, the mood starts to shift, people are more, loosely with their hands and touchy feely, and then before you know it, you're sucked into the vortex and you're just a kid. You're perfectly sober, but all the adults are high and drunk and everything else, and you are stuck in a situation that you can't get out of. And then the worst part is when everything's over, they just pretend like it never happened.
Yeah,
They make it normal. It's like and it's not
gaslight you.
that big of a deal. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when okay, so you were how old when this happened the first time?
Three. I was 3 years old the first time, and it was through a Beltane festival, and everybody brought a kid,
What
a
what's a
young girl.
what's a Beltane festival? Because a lot of people are not going to know what that is. And you kind of
So it's like they call it a festival. I'm not exactly sure what the purposes are because it's not like I stayed in practice or anything, but they have like a Mayday pole, and you have like little girls, like young girls under the age of 5, and they all dance around. You grab a ribbon and you swing around the pole, ring around the rosy, and you dance around the pole, and then you just kind of hang out, and it's the same thing. It's just like people get drunk, they get high, and then oh, okay, this is how to explain it. It's almost like when they had those parties back in the day with the fishbowl, and everybody would put their keys in the fishbowl, and whoever's keys you took, that's who you were going home with, whether you were married or not, but with children, if that makes sense. And each kid that was brought forward was brought by someone that was a part of, the Masons or whatever little cliques that they had. And so the insurance is everybody was in on it. So essentially they were trading their kids, their grandchildren. Does that make sense?
yes, I hear what you're saying. So
So they
you were
didn't worry about getting in trouble because
yes.
if so and so gets in trouble, then you're getting in trouble, you see?
So when okay, you were when you were this festival. How old were you when you went to this thing?
Like 3 or 4 years old. I was very little. I remember because it was like the first time I ever got my hair straightened. And my grandma was the one that took me. And then I wound up going with my uncle. And I had no idea. Uh, and when he was pretty much finished with me, because I I I wasn't able to do all the things that he wanted, and I was very young. I was a baby, so it was like it's still confusing to this day, but I remember throwing up, and because I threw up, he was just completely disgusted, and then he smacked me around and just basically put me on the back porch. And then when my grandmother came to pick me up, I thought, I was crying. I was visibly, messed up, and I had blood on me, and my clothes were messed up, and my hair was all over the place. And her first words to me were, look at you. What happened to your hair? I told you to be good, like making it my fault. And, so she didn't want to hear what he did to me. So to this day, I don't know if she fully understands. I think she does, but she turned it into it was my fault because I had messed up my hair and I'd messed up my clothes. And I had must have done something so bad for my uncle to call her and have her come and because I wasn't one of the kids that would comply. I was
Yeah,
always the one that was like, no.
yeah, and it's like you mentioned somebody like, oh well, people are getting killed. Oh, but this procedure, like what? This is the same type of minimization where they point out something very small that's insignificant and ignore like somebody getting raped or somebody getting killed. This is that this is this nonsensical type of mentality. Now, I know, you heard earlier on you mentioned the Masons, and I know that a lot of people be like, "Ooh, conspiracy theorists." But what made you? What about that? How did you
Evidence
know
is
that?
evidence.
How did you know that they were Masons? Is basically what I wanted to ask, or for
Well,
the audience.
there's little, like, they have special lodges. They have like they call it a lodge or a temple. They um the colors, there's also signs, there's also like all kinds of like different symbols, and I didn't learn what it was until I got older and somebody told me, don't that's a Freemason sign. And I'm like, what's that? I didn't know what it was. I just thought, I had no idea until I got older. But that's how I found out. A lot of the things that I found out about my family, I didn't find out while I was in captivity. I found out once I got free. So that's how.
So you saw
And
the symbolism and so forth that you
yes,
recognized as an older that you saw when you were a kid.
yes, and tattoos and necklaces and rings and uh, you know, just weird, strange things like that. And then I started noticing, wait a minute, that's a lodge. There's Masons everywhere. And then I started realizing, holy cow, like this wasn't just, a Midwest thing. This is all over the world. And that's the harsh reality, is that people can say it's a conspiracy, but I always say, before you consider it a conspiracy, uh, check, do your research, cross check, because evidence is evidence. It's just like DNA. Facts are facts. You can't change it. So, conspiracy theorist, my butt, I'm a critical thinker.
Yes,
So,
I'm gonna pull up something here because um this I mean when talking about the pedophilia, this is and this girl, I mean I give her a lot of credit because she has every reason in the world to fail, but she doesn't. And so, let me see what it said. And she talks about the pedophilia and how this works. And this woman, she herself was in child porn. When I heard her say this, I was like it's just like who needs to go and meet Jesus is when I hear somebody say something like that.
mhm.
This is the things that cross my mind when I hear things like this. But this, I want people to understand and so forth, and listen to this conference. It's a little bit of a lengthy clip, but I think it's fitting for what this situation is because this woman was a porn star and she left, and now she has a kid and stuff like that. Had a, like I mean a rough go of things, and she struggled with addiction and so forth. But I give her credit because I mean with what she went through, she should have been a basket case. So here we'll listen to the clip here.
You're saying it's up to 5% of the population are pedophiles. So if you think about the actual numbers there, like, it's pretty severe. Now, I believe that porn, this is one of the things that I learned after years of doing it. I believe that porn directly, I think that there are people who are born with a cross wiring in there. Like, pedophilia can show up on a brain scan. It's a cross wiring.
Can it?
Yeah, it's a cross wiring in your brain where, like, the you know, the little lumps in your brain, and they, like, all do something different. Okay, it's like one of them is the one that's, like, caring for somebody, and the sexual one are right next to each other, and they are crossed.
Oh,
so,
interesting.
Like, the motherly instinct is crossed with the sexual instinct, so they're wrong. That there is, like, actual genuine pedophilia that it isn't. I mean, I'm not defending them, but it's not their fault. It's an actual brain chemistry thing. And that's a thing. And now there's also, I believe, a lot of people who have just, like we were talking about earlier, watched weirder and weirder shit until that's all they can get off on now. And so that's where corn comes in and destroys.
We f***ed this up so much at this point.
I know. It is what it is. Like, you're just going to have to post this
No,
else.
it just won't be monetized. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, that sucks.
I'm enjoying the conversation.
Yeah. Well, and it's good for these people to hear it because this is stuff that I would like society to understand, even though they're not going to listen to me. Especially as an ex-corn star, although I feel like I have more of a right to speak of it, really, because of the experiences that I've had. Like, if anybody knows about this shit.
Yeah, first count expense.
Yeah. With all of it, with pedophilia, I mean, not myself. I mean, I was in child porn when I was a child. So, like, I have, like, a whole wealth of experience about, like, all of these things. And so I feel like I of all people have a right to speak on it.
Of course.
More so than most people who think they have a right to speak on it and have no idea. You know.
Do you think that you're shunned out of the equation or out of the conversation?
I'm shunned out of a lot of equations or conversations. Yeah, I think because of what I did. But I also think that those people aren't clicking on this video.
Can I tell you something that I think you might find interesting? So you will be the 89th episode on this podcast. I've had 89 people on this podcast.
Nice.
You are the first person to stump me with a question. Huh. Seriously. And she even, like, responded to it because she realized it too.
Wait, what did I stump you with?
When you asked me, is
about your daughter.
this how you want? Yeah. And it's a very good question.
Yeah.
I think that ostracizing people or dismissing them is a reflection of a poor, I want to be careful how I say this, forgive me. When you diminish someone else's input because you believe them to not necessarily be morally acceptable or perhaps intellectually acceptable, that's fine on face value, but then you still have to look at their argument and see if it has merit or weight.
Yes.
So, like, I could get a question from someone that I think is, like, the bottom of the barrel of society. But if they bring up, no, you're not that. But if they bring up a good point, that hits, you'll feel it nonetheless, right?
I feel like different people in different walks of life have more of a right to talk about certain things. Like, the bottom of the barrel, like, if you bring a pedophile in here, they'd have a lot of really relevant things to say about pedophilia that they understand better than I do. Or anybody else does. I'm not saying you should, but I'm just saying, somebody who was in my industry, I can have a lot more to say about my industry and how I think that it affects the world than somebody who just watches it.
Yeah.
Because they don't see the stuff that I see. They don't see the stuff behind the scenes. They don't see the reaction of the fans. They don't get the custom video requests that I get. It's sick, the shit that people ask me to do.
Is there any part of it that is positive?
I think that there is. I don't even want to say yes, but I do believe that there is. Like, I'm
not saying, like, it's more positive than not.
Yes,
but someone listening to this might think, oh my God, this is a horror story.
I don't think that as a I don't think that corn as a whole, like, as a concept, is necessarily harmful. I think it's the way that money has, the way that it's progressed, the way that money, like, algorithms have shown companies what makes the most amount of money, and they've pushed that way past the limits, and they're now feeding into whatever, like, ingrained pedophilia. Maybe somebody didn't even know they were into that until they saw some video of a guy or a girl that looked like they were underage, and they're like, oh, and they came harder than they ever did watching it, and now they're like, oh, well, let me find more of that. And, they would have maybe never even known had they not stumbled across this, like, stuff that's crossed a line.
What about the argument that is being presented that says that the introduction or the access to this content inhibits or prevents people from acting
So this
on their urges.
As someone with a diagnosed on paper sex addiction, plus a drug addiction, plus whatever else, I'm addicted to everything.
Addicted to good vibes.
Yes. No, but like from my, and I want to almost say my professional experience.
You can.
You cannot. That's like asking a meth addict to smoke meth once a week.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. She's right. It progresses. You never know what, just like with drugs and alcohol, you know, it's, you might go to a party and, you know, try Coke for the first time and it's great. Or you go to a party and you try Coke for the first time and you realize you need it every day, not just for parties. You never know what drink, what line, what pill is going to send you into an addict. So pornography, the same thing. Is you never know what video is gonna, and they do know what to push. They do, and there is a market for snuff, and it's more than just PC. And that's what the government is hiding, is that there are children that are literally raped to death.
I know.
You know, they call them disposable teens, disposable kids. That's what they are, because they are taken out of foster care systems, you know, all and people just, they're throwaway kids.
But this is why when you sit down and you look at people who are drug addicts and so forth and living in those like very bad segments of society, these are the kids that they steal more than anybody else, because there's nothing they can do. They can't defend themselves. This is why, look at the natives, right? Like, you have to understand with the mindset of what's happening here. The system is set up as a system of slavery. People are not designed to get through this and prosper. They're not. And if you look at what's happening now, they're moving more and more people into poverty and destitution so that they can get away with more of this filth. Because what happens when people are broke? They will do anything for money. And look at what happens to how many mothers. This is what happens to impoverished mothers, how they traffic their kids a lot of the time. Well, I need drugs. Well, we'll give you your supply of drugs. Let us have your kid whenever we want. Then they say, okay, and then they feel bad about it. But then they go and they get themselves blitzed out of their minds to forget. And then they keep doing this. Even though the kid is crying and begging not to stop, but they need their fix. And they've deadened their sense, deadened their nerves to this. And so even with my situation with my daughter, when I got wiped out financially and my daughter was in the States and I couldn't help her, they were pushing her from place to place, exploiting her because there was no money to help. Right? And anytime I didn't get any money, some other things would happen. And then they would throw her in a situation where I'd have to spend all of my money and neglect my bills to either, or leave her in a place where she'd have to trade sex for a place to live. While every time I walked outside my door, it was like, do I know if I'm coming back today? Right? That's a special kind of hell that you live in. So when I sit down and, I listen to what people are saying, I'm like, yeah, I can tell when somebody's going through a situation because you understand and you see key markers that you're like, okay, that checks out, that checks out. It's like, oh, I'm seeing a pattern here. Right? And it's a very disgusting pattern. What I wanted people to sit down and say is that, see where she talked about that she was in child porn. And she's addicted to everything she said. She had this is the effect that it has on people. And I mean, for what she's been through, she's got a strength of character because she's still fighting. Most people would just give up.
Or kill themselves or become addicted, kill themselves, become addicted. That's what they want you to do. They either want you to conform and work with them or die.
Yeah, I would love to have a conversation with a woman. Like, I mean, we've messed on social media and stuff before, but because of the fact that I would like to say thank you for not giving up, because you should be a statistic, but you're not. And every time I see anybody like this, I'm thankful for that, because there's every reason in the world, like even with your situation, you had every reason in the world to fail. Every single reason in the world to fail. Like your own mother, for God's sake, doing this to you. I I just I can't.
Yeah. I think people, that's why I think people use the term, that's why I call her a handler, because she never loved me. She loved what she could get from me. And, she was adopted, so God knows what her life was like. And I do believe that you either conform and you become a part of the fabric, or you tear away and they either kill you, make you look crazy, get you turned out on drugs. You become a targeted individual because, God forbid you should get out and get to the right people. Use your strength and use a platform to tell people, hey, this is what's going on. And nothing aggravates me more than when people can't understand it. Like, if you don't understand it, then take the time to do the research. And if it's too much for you, then, it sucks to be you.
Yes, and it just I'm just like I can't. But speaking of this, actually going back to what you were the girl in the video was saying there, Alicia, your mother did bestiality, and that's things that are tied very much together, because you when you start going down the slippery slope off the deep end, you'll go to violence, you go to
Mm-hmm.
animals and kids,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It,
Yes.
this is where you see that
Yeah.
lack of restraint.
Not very many people can get kicked out of the adult industry, right? Like, that shows you how sick and demented she really is to get kicked out like that. And yeah, it's
Why did she
I
get kicked out?
for doing bestiality. It should have been for what was going on with the children, but it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And it's hard to prove it when no law enforcement, no government agency wants to be involved because of the level of blackmail that she has on everyone from all of the videos. I'm talking about thousands of videos. People would people would buy tickets and she'd make videos, and I don't know who all these people were. I was a kid. I have no idea, you know but believe me, they kept a copy and she kept a copy, which is her insurance, which is
So she ran like
the
a
Temple of
blackmail.
Set's insurance.
She ran like a blackmail
Yes.
operation. Then
before before Epstein was even thought of, there are people like my handler that have been doing this forever.
I mean, like
you know
I told people there's 1,000 Epstein's walking around in the United States right now. 1,000
oh yeah.
guys at minimum that are
Mm-hmm.
doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So sure, they got rid of Epstein, but they got 1,000 more that'll take his place right now.
Yeah,
Right.
and
So
already have.
yes.
And the females, the women traffickers and predators, those are the worst. Those are the ones that get away with it so easily because people think, oh, well, oh, she's a woman. She's, they couldn't you think how easy it is. For instance, when someone is traveling with a child, right? And the kid's throwing a fit and being mischievous or whatever, if the kid's with the mom, or they who they perceive to be the mom, they don't really think much about it. But if a kid's flipping out and doing whatever with a male, then people will look a little bit closer. Women traffic children through our airports all the time, and it happens every day. And people just don't think to check because they're like, oh, mom must be having a hard time today.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
needs to be stricter policies. Like, everyone should have to check the same boxes.
yes. Because women today are the average trafficker is a woman, not a man,
Mm-hmm.
a woman. And that's really what,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's really what people have to say. And yeah, that's, people have to understand that
Designed
is that
as
they,
modeling agents, talent scouts,
yes.
pageants, you know.
And this is where, this is, people have to keep their eyes open to this because a lot of this stuff is going on. So let's circle back here. Actually, you know what? This is probably a good time to take a commercial break, and then we can come back to some more questions. So let me just take a break here, and we'll be right back.
Perio, co-founder of Mark37.com. I spent my career in Silicon Valley working for high-tech infrastructure companies, and I've witnessed firsthand the surveillance apparatus they've built. Most of you already know we're in a digital war right now, but are you really aware that we're trying to fight this war with the weapons and tools of the enemy? That Android or iPhone in your pocket? That MacBook or Windows laptop? It's a tracking device feeding everything you say and do to companies that want you under their control or eliminated entirely. Every text, call, location, even how long you pause on a post, they track it all and use complex algorithms to then use this data to manipulate your behavior. If you knew someone hacked your devices and was selling your data without your consent, you'd be furious and terrified. So why are you okay with these companies doing this to you right now? Here's what they don't want you to know. There is another way. At Mark37.com, we offer phones, laptops, tablets, and even basic flip phones, all running systems big tech can't access unless you explicitly give them access. And what's even better is you also don't need to sacrifice productivity. I'm one of thousands of geeks mobilized across this country, building tools and providing education and support to help you live anonymously online before they enforce digital ID. Go to mark37.com. Sign up for a free 30-minute digital privacy consultation. Join hundreds of thousands who have decided to stop feeding their data to companies actively working to enslave us. Take back your communications. Take back your data. And may God bless you on your journey.
Yes. So I got myself a ghost phone. So if you want to get one yourself, I would suggest making the journey to switch over. We don't want the tech companies stealing your information. And so go to mark37.com and use the promo code KARIS and get yourself a 5% discount. And so, yes, I've changed the picture here because you mentioned something about the Temple of Set and Michael Aquino and also with the Masons. And so, there was a lot of things that you mentioned, and then the snuff videos and so forth. So, what a lot of people have to realize, and people are looking at this in some of this stuff and saying, "Oh, well, this is sounds a lot crazy." You've got to sit down and think about all of the things that are being said. They know that they're doing psyops on the people. In Canada, the military straight out said it, right? If you look at what's happening in COVID, you can sit down and see that they were running psyops on the people. You look at how people are being programmed basically into this binary left right divide over like very trivial things as opposed to very huge things that the government is getting away with on both sides, right? So you're seeing that being done, the manipulation. We know with Epstein, well, he was blackmailing a whole lot of people and they were passing around kids to a bunch of people and they were raping kids. So you've got the blackmail there. Everybody knows this. They know that they're killing children. Like, I mean, anybody who realizes that those kids that were coming across the border that were getting they were getting trafficked and killed, like, I mean, you think that they're not going to make money off of killing them? The people are sick, right? So you've got a lot of these things that are already crossed off the list that we know about, right? I mean,
Oh
it talk
yes.
and so you have to start putting the pieces together. And there's a lot of people in government agencies that are involved in this. Like you sat down and said, Michael Aquino. What he was
Who
wasn't he
specializes?
a general?
Yes, specializing in psychological warfare.
And
That was his specialty.
wasn't he out of Fort
Psychological warfare.
Huachuca in Arizona?
Was he what now? I'm sorry.
Wasn't he out of Fort Huachuca in Arizona?
Um, and I don't know what camp he was at. I just know that he had a black house in San Francisco, and he made his own little military thing. But he was enlisted, and he was a high-ranking officer, and his specialty was psychological warfare. I can barely stomach looking at his pictures or even thinking about it because nobody's done anything. And that's why on this diagram, when you look at the top of it, it says CIA because it doesn't get much higher, right? They all know. But what they do is they collect the information. Some people get help. Some people get some people get help, and then some people get completely disregarded. They try to make them seem like they're crazy or they're on drugs. They discredit them. And then some people just outright disappear, or some people are shushed, like if you keep talking, this is what's going to happen. But that's why the CIA is at the top. And then you see the pedophilia and the blackmail method. Well, that's how they get a lot of their people. You know, you'll be at a party and that party's fun. And then your friend might say, "Hey, you want to come to the back? They're playing cards in here." So you go in and you're in the party and you go into another room inside the party. And then maybe there's another room. And in that third room or that fourth room inside the party, they're doing nefarious, jacked up things to children. And then you get compromised, right? And that's where the blackmail comes from, the blackmail method. Right. And then there's also like the MK Ultra monarch control. Like children are taken and taught that, this is okay, and they teach them to be promiscuous. They teach them to go out and be party favors and accept it in the hopes that when they grow up, they'll do it with their children. You see? And then what else is on here? Oh, generational sexual abuse. Yep, it's a learned behavior. It gets passed down. And sexual ritual abuse. Sarah, satanic abuse. So, like I was satanically abused, and that is a whole nother level of psychological damage. To this day, I don't sleep more than 3 or 4 hours. I get triggered like that. I still smell burning skin. Things like that. And they program you and make you think, well, hey, you know what? If you tell anybody about what happened, you were here too. So you're going to get in trouble too. And you're just as bad as we are. And even if you say you didn't want to do it, you're here. And guess what? We've got you on camera too.
I just looked it up again. He is a lieutenant colonel where he retired, and he was was connected to Fort Bragg. But yeah, he was definitely in charge of psychological operations that he was doing.
Isn't that nuts? And he had access to me and my brothers. He had access to me until I got away. But my brothers didn't get away until they were grown, you know? And it's crazy because they're, they make you feel like if you tell someone, they're either not going to believe you or they're going to find out, and then you're going to get in trouble for talking, you know? And that's why I really believe death penalty or whatever they have to do to start holding people accountable, because no one should be beyond reproach when it comes to the abuse of children, period. And if people don't start getting held accountable, then, it's just going to keep happening. The cycle's just going to keep repeating because people are scared to come forward. It takes a lot, and it's taken me years. It's taken me years to even be able to speak about it. Never mind publicly, it took years. When I first got free, I couldn't sleep in a room. I would sleep in a closet because I was scared, you know. You're scared of the space around you because you're so scared you're scared to put your feet on the floor. You're scared to get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the night because you just never know. It takes years, and that's why a lot of people get strung out. That's why a lot of people get suicidal. You
Yes,
either conform or you deal with it in other ways.
yeah, that's I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that's just it's it makes me sick and disgusted to see that this type of thing that's going on there. And I just tell people to take a picture, keep it, look at it, figure it out for yourself, and just switch that. Because I mean, I have to even get a break of looking at pedophilia staring in my face. This is a topic that
Yeah, and
it aggravates me to no end because I can't believe that these people are walking around and breathing oxygen.
they're doing it by the thousands. I mean, for instance, I've been advocating for uh, CPS, Child Protective Services, Division of Youth and Social Family Services, Office of Children's Services. I believe each one of those agencies in every state in the United States should have a head count and a forensic audit because they're looking at these children as alternative assets. And some of these kids, they're born in the system. You get a teenage girl, or, and then she produces a child. Now you've got the girl and you've
Yes.
got the mother, so there needs to be some kind of a head count. There needs to be a forensic audit. And the most insane thing is our taxpayer dollars, we're paying for the abuse. We're
Yes,
paying
we
for
are.
it.
Yes, we are. And people should
And
not
some
be.
of our biggest traffickers are people in positions of power: judges, attorneys, politicians, people that can do things and they
Yes.
don't because either they're compromised or they're quite happy with the arrangement.
Well, yes, and that's the problem. Too many people are happy with the arrangement. They have no incentives to change the status quo, and that needs to be changed.
Most definitely.
I mean,
I don't call I think that human trafficking, I've been trying to explain to people as a survivor that that's just a way to make people understand it, right? To spoon feed. It's human trafficking. Well, trafficking is an easy way to say child slavery because it's trafficking. With traffic, you have stoplights, turn signals, you've got to get a license. With This is child sex slavery. This is human sex slavery, and there are no rules. So I think that we should start also calling it what it is, which is human slavery.
well, they I guess they just talk about trafficking because of the movement, but I mean, it is slavery, and that's what people have to
Hmm.
understand. That trafficking is a human traffic is like a slavery violation,
Hmm.
and
And when the Sound of Freedom came out, everybody was so, oh my gosh, that's so horrible. That's not even the tip of the iceberg.
but the most of the trafficking doesn't look like that. That's the whole point.
No,
Most tra-
it was soft exposure because they can't actually come out and say, there are hunting parties where there are rape trees for toddlers. I know that's a lot to take in, and I'm sorry to say it like that. I'm a little desensitized because I've survived. And nothing drives me more crazy than people saying, "Oh my God, I can't hear it. It's too much." Yeah, it is too much. So like do something about it. What are you going to cry about it? I wish, Dell, that I could do a boot camp for people that want to help and just put them in a crawl space. right? You say you need this money for your 501c3 or your nonprofit or your new agency, right? You want to help kids, right? That's what you're going to do. How about you survive this boot camp? And I'll just put you in a crawl space for just the weekend, and I'll take your cell phone and you won't get your Starbucks and you can't call your wife, and I won't even rape you. Let's see how you feel after just, 48 hours in a dark space. And maybe for fun, I'll put a Doberman or something, a vicious dog to scare you from moving. But that's, as an adult, that would psychologically break someone. Children are in these situations. So when people sit there and deliberate and make all these plans, these kids, these bodies are accumulating. The abuse is not stopping. And that's what frustrates me.
Yeah, I hear you. And they need to get a lot of this stuff dealt with because they're actually um, they're allowing a lot of this to continue, and people need to actually take a stand and deal with it. And a lot of people are like, okay, I find it hard to stomach all of the other stuff because they're like it's so graphic. But I'm like, people have to understand it's happening in your neighborhood. Okay,
Hmm.
maybe not all of the things are happening in your neighborhood, but a lot of the things are happening in your neighborhood. You guarantee you go to any neighborhood and kids are being raped right now. They're being trafficked. And they're happening
Hmm.
and in government agencies. I talked to JJ Carroll. I had him on the podcast and Ryan Mata as well. And JJ Carroll worked at the CBP for 28 years. And he said the United States government is the biggest human trafficking organization on planet Earth. And people have to understand how this works. The government, yes, they have them bringing in the people across the border and hanging them over, but they also have domestic trafficking. And they do it very
Hmm.
differently because if you throw a kid in the back of a van and drive off with him, everybody's going to look for them and the police are going to have to get engaged. But if you start using government agencies and court systems to direct where trafficked children are going, then people don't look because they're like, oh, well, it's the court. Oh, it's the government agency and everything else like that. And then they will get the aid of the police to come and steal your children and put them in places where they're going to be destroyed or they're going to end up in such a bad life that they're going to get out and be trafficked as adults or in and out of the prison system.
Or
Right?
they become perverted themselves because of the abuse.
Yes. Yes. And that's really what it is. And they're facilitating the exploitation of children. And when you do that, you create the conditions for them to be raped or for them to be in positions where they're going to be exploited. That's a crime. That's a
Hmm.
crime, a serious crime. Like we were talking offline, like with what happened with me. When I got arrested, strapped to a table, and drugged against my will, my daughter ended up getting taken away and getting raped. Well, they created the circumstances for that person to take my daughter, transport her across provincial lines, and rape her. Right?
Mm.
And the police protected it, and the courts helped do this, and then they made sure that I couldn't get remedy by wiping me out financially, and then taking my other daughter. Well, that's trafficking. I don't care what anybody says. They will sit down and say, "Oh, well, it's now a judge that what is the judge going to order you to rape somebody, and you're going to sit down and say you can't do anything, or they can just go and shoot somebody in the courtroom, and that's going to be okay, right?"
Yeah.
So
Yeah. These courtrooms are crime scenes, is what they are, and they should be
yes,
treated as such. They are crime scenes, and there are several bad actors involved. And you want to have faith in the judge. I know everybody does, right? But the courtroom should be looked at as a crime scene, and everyone in that courtroom should be, investigated. Especially in your situation, it's insane. But yeah, the courtroom is a crime scene, and there are several bad actors. And even on a good day, either the guardian ad litem and the attorney, or the judge and the guardian ad litem, it's always something. But if they would really start to pay attention to what's going on in family court, especially because they're doing this to our families, and with, I don't know if they have it in Canada. In Alaska, they call it child in need of aid, CINA cases, and they're supposed to be protected, but you have to be made a party to the case to even know what's going on. So they're doing this behind closed doors, and you have to get special permission to even be a party to a case to advocate for a child. And these courtrooms are just like they're crime scenes. I don't know how else to say it.
They make it very closed in Canada. They do a lot of things in chambers and off the record, a lot of ex parte hearings and so forth, so that never
Ugh.
sees the light of day, right? Like, I mean, I in my case, and this is in the documents that I put on the public record on the petition, it shows that they committed fraud to steal the house and sell it and transfer my title. Fraud, and a judge engaged in it. And they're like, "Oh well, it's a no. You don't use a section of legislation that you have no jurisdiction to, and then on top of it, then say that the division of property is done, sign, and die when you have all of that evidence before you sign the divorce decree. You're lying. Like you're watching this happen, and then you have a bunch of people that go around, and this is what happens. I see this happening with many victims. They get destroyed by people who come out after them. But I'm going to sit down and I'm going to tell people, I'm going to give you fair warnings, because when the dust settles and people start getting arrested, which they will, guess who's also going to get arrested? When you shut somebody down and make sure that nobody supports them, you're helping to facilitate their exploitation. And that's a trafficking offense. And all these people that are aiding the traffickers, you're a trafficker. Keep that in mind. When you punish somebody, you might not agree with what somebody says, but when you start taking actions to hinder them from trying to get justice or bring light to their situation, you're helping traffickers.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They're all guilty by association. And and everybody has the there's no there's I can't stand when people say, oh well, we had to do it because the state said, and the judge always goes with the side of the state. Well, there's no time like the present to get out of a bad situation. If you are a judge or you are an attorney and you realize that there's something nefarious going on, there's no time like the present to say, you know what, I can't be a part of this. At least do that much. At least do that much rather than to sit there, especially for the young children that, they can't even talk. They can't even do anything for themselves. They're just herded around like cattle. And all of these bad actors, politicians, judges, attorneys, doctors, nurses, psychologists, all these people, they are crabs in a bucket. And if you ever seen crabs in a bucket, they climb on
Yes,
top of each other. You can have 500 crabs in one bucket, none of them growing anywhere.
they
You got to
actually
kick over the bucket. You got to kick it over.
there's a guy, he's a Canadian rapper named Chaos. He did a song called Crab in the Bucket, Crabs in the Bucket. And it was
That's
fun
right.
because that's really what happens, is that
That's what it means.
one tries to get away and they all pull him back in. They all pull him back in.
Yes.
And
Yes. And
that's
that's how I look at it.
and this is where they have things on top of each other. This is how gangs operate, right? A gang, to get initiated, they have to commit a crime. They do it with people so that if they decide to do something, they're going to go to jail because they've got them on something very bad. This is this is the same type of mentality that you're seeing with these people. They're like gang members, right? And this
Mm-hmm.
then tells you that you're running a criminal operation when you're having these type of tactics, right? And
Oh,
so
yes, definitely.
you're looking at organized crime, and it doesn't matter whether they're wearing suits or they're wearing do-rags and gang colors, right? They're still effectively the same. because they're doing the same things. And in fact, the one that's in the suit is way worse than the gangbanger on the street,
That's
right?
right, because at least there's codes on the street. Gangbangers on the street have code. I don't know very many Southside Pacoima Crips that are into, trafficking children. I don't know very many, you know what I mean? Piru Bloods or whatever that are into trafficking children. But the people that are in politics and in, I mean, I hate to say it, but some of these secret societies, what's the difference in Freemasons and the Crips?
They're in the government and they're raping kids.
Exactly. And they're the ones handing out the punishments. But if people only knew, right?
Yes,
People only knew.
right. And like people sit down and want to act like everybody's in there is great. And I'm not going to sit down and say that everybody who is a Mason is raping a kid. That's preposterous because the way they work those types of things is that only certain people know certain things and not everybody does, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you have to have people who honestly think that they're doing something better or they're just not being privy to the worst of the evil. Because if they
Yeah, the
did,
dual door,
yes.
the duality, the dual door.
And so
Do as
that's,
I say and not as I do.
yes, right? And so at the end of the day, people have to begin to understand that some of the people, even if you're in these organizations, the person sitting next to you, they're not who you think it is, right?
Mm-hmm. They have multiple faces.
Right?
Yes.
And one day
Oh, yeah.
it might be your kid that they rape, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
when you go to do something about it, because I actually know a guy, he was in the Masons, and he left, and they did him dirty, and they they're destroying him in the family courts because he's in the middle of nowhere, a little small town, and the whole good old boys run everything.
Mm-hmm. I'm dealing with that here myself. It's really bad in Alaska. There are 33 lodges, and I'm not saying every Mason is bad because I don't believe that. That's like saying every single Catholic is bad. It's not the case, right? It's not the case. There's a lot of good people, but they have no idea about the bad that goes on. And what bothers me about the Masons is how this is worldwide.
Yeah,
It's not, could you imagine if Sinaloa or MS-13 just all of a sudden went worldwide? You know what I mean?
yes, I
People
know,
would be shook.
but
So,
these guys are worse. Honestly,
mm-hmm.
they're worse.
Very organized.
And
They're very organized.
like I sit down and say, my ex-wife, she comes from a Masonic family, right? And neighbors at the lake, they were Masons. I mean, she introduced me to a lot of people that she knew that through Masonic connections that were Masons, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
get, I I understand, and they are very secretive. There are things that they just straight up won't tell you about those types of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it is
Yeah.
what it is.
Yep.
But
And then they get you sucked in, and you never know. You just never know when your number is going to be called.
yeah, they would never get a person like me in there. They would never even offer, even when I was younger. They would never. They knew see people who they can and they can't, and I'm one of the person that they can't.
Right. Well, I know that there's a few people rolling over in their grave right now in regards to me because I wasn't supposed to make it. When I ran away in Alaska, they were literally about to stick me in a container and they were going to ship me off. So, what they were going to do was knock me out and they were going to put me in this container. And this container is what my handler would use for her snakes. And she had these snakes that were like 14 feet long, like Burmese pythons, I mean, like 200-pound snakes. These things are huge. Now, she's freakishly strong. I mean, freakishly strong. And so they were going to put me in this container. And I know it sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, I believe it was God's voice, and He told me, because by the time this had happened, I had finally gotten this guy. His name is Barry Mantha. Barry Manthe. Look it up before you say it's a conspiracy. He's from Missouri. He was the one that had me, and I finally got him to trust me, you know, and he let me out of the restraints. Well, I heard what they were going to do. They were going to ship me off from this place called Merrill Field, which is a little tiny airport in Anchorage. All over Alaska and all over the United States, there's these little hidden airports where it's not, you don't have to go through TSA. So you talk about domestic, trafficking. They've got hidden airports. They've got underground tunnels, where they, and people think it's crazy, but you can literally drive 18-wheelers through some of these tunnels. And they do it every single day.
I'm going to tell you this right now. I used to work in mining doing engineering. I understand how big the pathways are underground and how far down they're underground, because we literally have to do this so that you have to make these tunnels this way so that you can bring in the parts to build a mine, right? You put a big hole in the ground,
Well,
and then they have to start excavating out to go out and take things. And you have to, the reason why they do tunnels is because you can't just clear a big, like, you can't um, clear a square mile underground. You just cannot, unless you want the whole thing to collapse on everybody. So they have to do it in tunnels when they're digging things out, because you can't just clear out everything when you're mining. So this is how they mine. So these tunnels are a result of mining. And then if you have, for example, a hollowed out mine, it's not hard to just keep tunneling to wherever you need to go.
yes, and then they fill these 18-wheelers up and containers up with not like one or two or three kids. I'm talking about hundreds of kids. They're moving kids by the thousands all over the place before the border situation even happened.
Yeah, now they don't even
This
tunnel across the border anymore. They don't.
mm-mm.
They just hand them to the ICE agents that they got on the take, or the CBP agents.
Mhm. Yeah, it's wild. When I was a kid, there was this tunnel in Kansas City, Missouri. It's called like the Citropolis. And underneath it, it was, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I went to look it up later on in life. Now there's real estate, a light showing you where it's at, it's no secret. But when I was younger, you had to know. And yeah, but they use all kinds of tricks to smuggle people, but that's why I ran away and was successful in Alaska, is because I was terrified of getting shipped. They were going to send me to Russia. They were going to send me to Russia because I had already ran away twice before that, and I had gotten them in all kinds of trouble in Missouri. And when they finally did the investigation in Missouri, they found FBI involved, police were involved. I mean, it's crazy. I'm pretty sure the Columbia Police Department to this day is still under some kind of investigation because they were directly involved with this man named Barry Manthe, and a man named Ron Clark. And the worst thing is, the person that wound up getting all the time was a young boy that was one of his working girl's child. He taught this kid how to do everything that he was doing and made him his like pup, his understudy. And then when he got caught, he blamed everything on the kid.
Just made him the patsy, took the fall.
Mm-hmm. And he was a child that was born into it. I mean, he was born in and born too. He had no idea. And so now he's got 100 years, and you know what? I swear to you, I know it sounds crazy, but Barry Mantha got 18 months. 18 months. And he had been known for trafficking children as young as the umbilical cord is attached. Not even kidding you.
Well, he probably rolled over and cut a deal just to go in and get himself um, some off time and bury the kid that took 100 years, right?
Right.
This
I'm
this is
sure he's doing something somewhere.
well, this is how they do that. The prosecution's like, okay, well, we'll do this. You just do this, and you'll be out in this time, and everything will be great.
Hmm.
So
Well, the only problem is they left a whole bunch of unsolved, unresolved missings and
yes,
murders, you know.
so I wanted to get here because how did you end up getting to Alaska? You were with your mother at this point where they were getting ready. How did you get to Alaska?
So what happened was I for a long time I didn't know how I got up here. I was just in Missouri and then I woke up in the basement. Like I didn't know how I got up here. Later on in life, my brother explained to me that, we flew and they just drugged me. And it's kind of crazy because they flew commercial air, you know. Nobody had anything to say about this very drowsy child. I was 10 and then I got brought up here. I woke up in the basement and I was in shackles. I was in restraints and they kept me there. I was there from the time I was 10 until I was 13. And finally, I got the guy that had me, Barry, to finally let me out of the restraints. And it took me a long time. But once I got him to let me out of the restraints, I started to learn my way around the house. And one day I heard him on the phone talking about shipping me off to Russia because my handler was in Russia. She left me. So because they got caught in Missouri and they she went to Russia, he came up here and then they went separate directions and he was supposed to send me to Russia from Merrill Field and make it look like he was just sending one of the snakes. And that's how I got away. And so I ran away. I ran over to the motel where I thought I would be safe. And there was this lady over there, and I'll keep her name private, but she helped me and she went to law enforcement and she helped me the best she could. She was stalked. Her house was broken into. They killed her dog. She had an English bulldog. She loved the dog. They killed her dog, ransacked her house, and the police knew what was happening, but she never got any help. And so finally one day she got me to go to school. She got me to go to a middle school. And then the cops came in there and put me in foster care. And then I got put in foster care here in Alaska and I got trafficked through foster care. My foster parent was a pimp and she was a female.
Oh wow! And how old were you at the time when this happened?
13. From 13 to 16, I was trafficked through the state of Alaska's foster care system. Because they knew, everybody knew. The cops knew, the guardian at Lynham knew, the doctors knew, my caseworker knew. And this is not like it's not isolated. There are several children in this state that have been trafficked through foster care. It's just nobody's doing anything about it.
And
It's the elephant in the room.
so your
But we have to
foster
see the elephant.
so your foster parent was mother was pimping you out to
That's right. To a GI, to a man that was in the Air Force, a GI, and I got the boyfriend experience. And so I thought because he was nice to me and I wasn't chained up and I wasn't being smacked around and repeatedly raped, that he was my boyfriend. That's what I thought. And he would take me on the base to a sergeant's house, okay? And then I thought I thought it was me and him that were having sex, but he was letting people have sex with me. And we were just in the dark. And because I was a kid and I was already so, I mean, I had been the first time I had ever, this is going to be a lot. I'm really sorry to explain this, but the first time I had ever been penetrated, I was 9. Okay. And it was brutal. Okay. But my handler because of her experience, she sewed me together. She put me back together. So a few times I was raped and I would, crack open and she would fix me. Sometimes it would last for a long time and then sometimes it wouldn't. So, but that's what happened. And so I was so used to being treated like uh so badly that when I went to foster care, I thought that these people cared about me. And I thought that the guy that I thought was like my boyfriend, it was my foster parent and him that were pimping me out to guys on the base.
Oh, Jesus.
And they all knew about it. Even my caseworker. They all knew.
This is
Hey,
why
right?
in this is why in small places, and people don't understand this, how bad small places can be. Because when you have control of that whole area, then there's nowhere for that person to run. You're in a remote place already, right? And in a place like
Yeah.
Alaska, you can't get to the continental United States without driving through Canada or flying. So you're pretty much
Mm-hmm.
stuck, especially if you're a kid and trying to get away.
Yeah.
How are you going to get away?
You can't. You can't. And they're, one of their famous sayings is, you can scream all you want, but nobody's going to hear you.
Yeah.
Scream all you want, nobody can hear you. And so she would, when I was 9 was the first time I was penetrated, and she put me back together. And so it happened over and over and over again. And then when I finally got free, I was already desensitized as to what sex was, what love was. So I thought, even though I was 13 and he was 20, that he loved me. You see? Because he bought me things, he took me places. And I just thought my foster mom was super cool.
Yeah, that is I'm sorry that you had to go through that. This is why you parents have to protect their children. And when you take a child away from the parent that's protecting them, this is the type of thing that happens. Because when you have a parent that just doesn't care, this is the end result. And yeah. Okay, I know we've been here for a while. We're gonna have to come back again. But what is happening to you now? What is going on with you now? We're there's a ton of questions, but not enough, not infinite amounts of time.
Right now, I'm still I still advocate I advocate for missing and murdered and indigenous here in Alaska because it's not it isn't this is a pandemic for real. Like what's happening to missing and murdered, it just it's unbelievable. So I advocate for missing and murdered on my own. And I was just recently a part of a custody case. I filed a motion to intervene as a grandparent and dealing with corruption there too, because you know that's a long story, but I'm writing a book and I'm doing a documentary and I do plan on coming out, and my whole intention is to see justice, not just for myself, but for all of the other children and especially my brothers, because when I got away, I kept asking, what are you going to do for my brothers? I just left my brothers. These people have my brothers, and my brothers were brutally trafficked and exploited their entire lives until they were able to get away. So I just want to shine the light on that, and I believe that no one is beyond reproach. And if it's the last thing I do, I'm going to get justice. Well, that's about it. I think you hit the mute on the button.
Of course, I like talking to myself. Um, I understand what happened with my daughter and what she went through when she went into foster care, and then having to fight 3.5 years to get custody of her after losing all parental rights. This is what people have to understand. It's very difficult to get your parental rights back after they're taken. Then I'm a man, which makes it worse. And being a black man, that didn't do me any favors either. And, the issues with the indigenous women, my daughter's Métis. I mean, she's of Cree descent on her mom's side. And the flack that she has gotten because of this, where people have done things outright into the open and nobody cared. People tried to say she was a dirty Mexican that was jumping the border. Excuse me.
Mm.
My daughter don't even look Mexican, right? But,
No, she doesn't.
and people didn't want to listen to what they have to say because they're like, oh, well, this, that, and the other. And, oh, well, this is pattern recognition. Oh, well, they're doing this and they're doing that. I'm like, do you understand really what you're saying? Because a lot of people, and I see this happening, they talk about, oh, well, the residential schools. They're like, okay, there was one place where they sat down and they said there was 215 bodies, but they couldn't verify where there was. Okay. They're like, well, then all residential schools were good and everything was a lie. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, just from me working with trafficking, whenever you isolate children from their parents, abuse happens 100% of the time. So you're going to tell me that you have a bunch of Native kids in residential schools and their parents, a lot of them don't even speak the language and they're isolated from their parents most of the year. You're going to tell me that no pedophiles are going to go in there and do stuff? I'm not sitting down and saying in every case everybody's experience was terrible, because that's not true. But you're going to, anytime you take children away from the parents, predators are going to flock into those areas. And now I noticed that race does play an issue into this situation.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I
Mm-hmm.
cannot stand racism, because racism allows the perpetuation of trafficking more than anything does. Because somebody's like, oh, well, oh, it's just a Native person. Oh, it's just a black person. Oh, it's just this person or that person. So I'm not going to care. Then who's benefiting from? Who are you helping? Because I'll tell you right now, a pedophile, they don't care what race your kid is. They're going to rape your kid.
That's right.
Right? Like, we're like, oh, I can't rape that kid. They're a white kid like me. Or I can't rape that kid. They're a black kid like me. Are you kidding me? They're a pedophile. They'll rape anything.
Mm-hmm. That's
So,
right.
so people need to just understand that if you don't end the trafficking altogether for everybody, you're going to end the trafficking for no one.
That's right. That's exactly right. And then nobody's safe. Nobody's children are safe.
No, because as long as you give pedophiles an unrestricted access, they're going to start growing and they're going to be like infesting the place wherever they can flock and do their filthy, their whatever, without getting caught. And then what we need is for everybody to stand together. And these pedophiles, they need the death penalty. And I'm an advocate for bringing that back for pedophilia. You want to rape a kid? You want to kill a kid? Sorry, well, you get the gas chamber, you get the electric chair, whatever the case may be, but you need capital punishment.
That's right. Yes, we could use the death penalty here in Alaska for sure.
They haven't had it here since 1969, but I would advocate bringing it back for pedophiles.
Yeah, I think it should be that way for if you're a proven 100% pedophile, if you have exploited a child for money or for, sexual favors or whatever, if you've actually assaulted a child, because I can tell you as a survivor, I get up every day, but a part of me dies every day too, especially knowing that it's still going on. It's a horrible. That's why I advocate, because that's the only thing that makes me feel alive, makes me feel human. Because you know, I know when I was a kid, I just wanted someone to listen, someone to help me. By the grace of God, I got free, so I use my voice, and that's why I do it. But I absolutely believe if we start holding people accountable, more people will come forward.
Well, yes, and I'm going to say a warning to people that go after people who go out and come forward with their situations. I mean, when the dust settles, a whole lot of you guys that are going to do that, I want to make sure that you guys get arrested too. You don't want to start your
Mhm.
course, and you do that, you need to get arrested just as much as these traffickers because you got to leave people alone. You don't have to agree with what they're saying, but if someone's trying to get justice, you can't do that. And I'm sorry.
That's right.
Aiding and abetting pedophiles makes you a pedophile in my books. I don't care. I don't want to do anything to help pedophiles. So if somebody wants to go and do something and try to expose pedophiles, I ain't going to stand in their way. Not at all.
That's, that's right. That's right. And we do need the death penalty. And maybe by the grace of God, it'll happen worldwide. You
Yeah,
know?
they need to, like I sit down and say, the deterrent needs to be so hard that they're never going to do this old filth like this ever again. Will it
Hmm.
completely eradicate pedophilia? No, because there's always going to be somebody who's going to do some nonsense. But when the state is being the ones who are stealing and raping your kids, no, absolutely not. And I mean, you get the hammer should come down harder on you if you're in the government doing this. Sorry.
Yeah, abusing your position for sure. They should
Oh,
go first. The people in
yes.
positions of power that are abusing their positions, they should be the ones to go first.
Yes, and as far as I'm concerned, all of these cases, it doesn't matter if you're indirectly or directly involved and you're in government or in law enforcement or in elected official, death penalty. Death
Yeah, if
penalty.
you help to perpetuate the cycle of abuse of a minor, a child, then yeah, you absolutely should be held accountable,
I don't care how
right?
light it is, in that you're involved with raping and trafficking kids, death penalty. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care. Like, I mean, because you're a government official, you're abusing the power that you have to go and do this kind of filth. Anyway, I could go on about this forever.
Right.
It,
Right.
this burns me like there's no tomorrow because I don't understand is how any man could rape a kid. I don't know how any man could go and do this, or any human being for this matter to rape a kid. There is something majorly wrong, and this is satanic, and it needs to stop. Anyway, how can people reach you? How can they help you if they're looking to try to support what you're doing? I know that you're kind of anonymous, but if there's any causes you want them to support or anything like that until you kind of come out.
Well, I am putting together a documentary and I am putting together a book, and as soon as that comes out, you'll be the first to know. But right now, if people really want to help support the cause, pay attention. You know what I mean? I get so tired of see something, say something, like freaking do something. You know what I mean? Don't underestimate your senses. If you see something, do something. Support your channel. Support your channel. Share this video. Go and look up Barry Mantha, Ron Clark in Columbia, Missouri. Go look up the Franklin scandal. Go there. This is not isolated. When people talk about Epstein, I try to make them understand that Epstein is an ice cube in the ocean 40 miles away from the main iceberg. Okay? Do your research. If you don't believe it, that's fine. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. How about that?
Yeah, I hear you. I think that everybody needs to get involved in this and stop the government. And this is why, I mean, we structured the petitions the way that we did because a lot of people, for example, the vaccine injured, they don't got the strength to help fight this. They're trying to stay alive because the government poisoned them and they're going to die, right?
Mm, yeah, the shots. Yep. Yeah,
So,
population control.
so uh, everybody just needs to go after the government for however they harmed them in the judicial using the judicial branch, and then everybody wins because They need to clean out the corruption, and it has to get dealt with. And the only how it's going to get dealt with is if the people push it forward, right? That's really it. Nobody's going to do it for you. None of these guys are going to break ranks because they're all terrified of these criminals. Well, guess what? They need to be more terrified of the people that are going to be standing there to protect their liberties and their children than they are of those criminals. Because at the end of the day, I mean, I don't advocate for violence. Don't get me wrong. I don't. But I know that if you leave people in this situation for a long time, you're provoking violence. When you're raping and stealing their kids,
Mm-hmm.
we don't want that. But we want these guys to get dealt with. So they need a lot of public pressure to make them
Yes, so
violent.
share the video with everybody.
And get out and do something. Get in their faces and ask them why they're allowing this to happen and put them on camera.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
Like,
Make it, yeah. They shouldn't even be able to go to Starbucks by the time we're done. They shouldn't even be able to go get a coffee. Okay?
they
All the bad actors need to be identified, and no one is beyond reproach. Period.
like Justin Trudeau. If you ever watch videos of Justin Trudeau before he resigned, no matter where he went, everybody was on him, letting him know exactly what they thought of him. He could not go anywhere without people in his face sticking cameras in his face and everything else like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
That's the way it should be.
every single one of them needs to experience this consistently, that they dread
Mm-hmm.
coming to work. They dread doing this because eventually they're going to have to start thinking that if I don't do this, they're going to know what's next. Because
Mm-hmm.
when with the petitions, when we send those out, that's telling the government this is your final straw. You're going to do it or else. Because what happened 250 years ago? They didn't listen and they kicked out the British.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, and it's this is not isolated. I guarantee you, everywhere, all over the United States and the world, in every city, there's someone that is missing, someone that's being exploited. There's something, there's a case everywhere that you can get involved and exposed. Be the light in the dark. Be the light
Yeah.
in the dark.
And I'm
Make everyone a Justin Trudeau. It's, if you're a bad actor, you need to be exposed. Judge,
exactly.
doctors, lawyers, politicians. If you're a bad actor, you should be exposed. And no one is beyond reproach.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, I'm all out of mercy for pedophiles. I'm sorry, but I don't care. You're a pedophile. You help, but no mercy for you. You don't want to. You don't
That's
want to turn away from your wicked ways and repent. You're going to be getting the fate just like the pedophile. So pick what you're going to do, because at the end of the day, when the people are coming, I'll tell you right now, there's a lot more people that are far less reasonable than me, and those are the people we're going to have to deal with. So,
Mhm.
right.
Amen.
So I'll close here with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, your grace, your mercy. And Lord, we thank you for all the things that you have done for us. And Lord, I had to hear some like horrendous situations, uh, Lord, that have been brought before us today. And watch over her, and bless her, and help her, that she would be able to get through this and get the justice that she deserves, and the justice for the children, and help all the men and the women for us to come together to rebuild our families, our churches, our community, our nation, that we can have some protection for the children, and Lord, bring these evil, filthy devil worshippers to justice, is my prayer. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.